One of the never-ending journeys of arm wrestling training is trying to find exercises with weights that feel as close as possible to real arm wrestling. Of course, an exercise using weights is never gonna feel exactly like pulling another human, but the goal is trying to get it as close as possible. One very popular weightlifting exercise for arm wrestling is wrist rise or radial deviation. There are a million different ways to train wrist rise, and every version of the lift feels a little bit different. Probably the most common way to train it is represented here by Auden Larratt in his recent lifting video. You wrap the belt around your wrist and then the belt goes through your hand and over the top of your knuckles. This lift feels decently close to rising in a real arm wrestling match, but it's still not quite perfect. The anchor point of the lift is a bit unrealistic since in a real match the strap is not anchored to your knuckles. This lift is not a bad lift and it will definitely make your wrist rise stronger, however it isn't the very best at mimicking a real match. If only there was a better version of this lift. Luckily, you've come to the right place. In the same video from Auden, we see him performing many of the traditional arm wrestling lifts as you would expect. But toward the end of the video, we see Auden using this exercise. This is a variation of a wrist rise lift that I don't think I've ever seen before. It may look like the same as any other wrist rise lift upon first glance, but the subtle difference actually makes a big impact. Notice how Auden sets up for this lift. He doesn't throw the belt over his knuckles. He loops the belt around his hand and then he throws the belt over the entirety of his hand, starting the belt at the wrist, going over his thumb, and then finally over his knuckles. This is significant for several reasons. Firstly, when using this lift, you will feel a much better connection to your thumb and to your wrist even while rising through your knuckles. This is a much more accurate replication of rising in a strap since the strap is connected to your wrist. And secondly, the way that Auden wraps this lift allows him to change the strap's point of contact with his hand during the lift. Notice how in the first rising lift, the strap's point of contact with the hand will always be the knuckles. Even if Auden drops his hand as in a low hand top roll, the pressure is still on the knuckles. Whereas with the new pronation lift, as Auden drops his knuckles, the pressure from the belt begins to transition from his knuckles to his thumb. This is all because of the way the belt is wrapped. The Riser 2.0 lift is a much more versatile lift than the first one. Now, if none of that made any sense to you, just go ahead and try both of these lifts and you'll see what I mean. The pressure distribution of the second lift just feels more spread out over your whole hand, and in the first lift, you only really feel the pressure on your knuckles. Personally, I like the second lift way more than the first lift after trying it myself. All that being said, I'm not advocating that you should eliminate the first lift from your training. What I am saying is that it's a good idea to give both lifts a try and see which one feels more like arm wrestling to you. And even after that, you could still just incorporate both of them into your training. If you guys have tried this variation of the wrist rise lift, drop a comment down below and let us know which one you liked better. And most importantly, make sure to get over to Auden's channel and show him some love. Auden has been absolutely crushing it lately. He won the Canadian National Championships and has even competed in Arm Wars. I just wish that Auden could get his dad interested in the sport. I bet he would be pretty good at it.